A young human engineer named Mark Hale finds a crashed royal starship on a deserted moon. Inside, he discovers a wounded alien woman wearing shredded royal armor. When he touches her arm to stop the bleeding, her eyes snap open, glowing with power. "Human, do you understand who you are touching?" Before he can answer, the ground shakes. Enemy hunters are closing in. Mark, a quiet repair technician on a remote mining station, is sent to check a strange crash signal on Moon K7. He expects scrap metal, not danger. His scanner dies near the wreckage, giving the scene an eerie tension. He hears a weak voice calling for help. "Welcome to my channel Sci-Fi Love Story. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe." The small mining moon called K7 was usually quiet, almost too quiet. Mark Hale, a young human engineer, liked it that way. He spent most of his days fixing broken machines, repairing drones, and walking through empty tunnels. Nothing exciting ever happened on that moon. Nothing dangerous. Nothing strange. But today was different. A distress signal had appeared on his scanner, weak, flickering, and coming from the far side of K7, where no one ever went. Command told him to check it. "Probably another crashed cargo pod," they said. "Gather the scrap. Bring it back. Easy job." Mark didn't argue. He grabbed his tool bag, started his hoverbike, and rode across the rocky landscape. When he reached the location, the sky above him glowed with the color of burned metal. A huge ship had crashed there, far bigger than any cargo pod. Sharp silver wings were buried in the ground, and smoke rose in thick black clouds. Strange symbols glowed on the hull, written in a language he didn't know. Mark felt his stomach tighten. This wasn't a normal ship. This was something powerful. He stepped closer, scanning for signs of life. The device sputtered twice, then died. Static swallowed everything. The air around the wreck felt heavy, like something was pressing on his chest. Then he heard it. Faint voice. Calling for help. Mark froze. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a medic. He was just a simple engineer with a bag of tools and a bad sense of timing. But he couldn't walk away. He climbed through a shattered doorway and entered the ship. Inside was chaos. Broken walls, sparking wires, shattered glass. But in the middle of the corridor lay someone he didn't expect to see. A tall woman with silver-white hair, glowing armor torn across her shoulder, and blood dripping down her arm. Her skin had a faint shimmer, almost like starlight. She looked like she belonged to another world. Maybe another galaxy. Mark knelt beside her, checking her pulse. It was weak but steady. Her breathing was slow, painful. She had lost too much blood already. "I need to stop this bleeding," he whispered to himself. Her eyes were closed, and she didn't react when he touched her arm. He took out a small medical spray he always carried, used mostly for minor cuts and burns. He cleaned the wound carefully. The moment the cold spray touched her skin, her fingers twitched. Mark gently lifted her arm to wrap the bandage. That's when her eyes opened. They weren't normal eyes. They shone like blue fire, glowing from within, filled with something ancient and powerful. She grabbed his wrist with unexpected strength. Mark froze in place, heart pounding. The woman stared into his eyes and spoke in a calm, commanding voice, even though she was hurt. "Human, do you understand who you are touching?" Mark blinked, confused and terrified. "I'm just trying to help. You are touching the Queen of the Galaxy." He went completely still. "Queen of the Galaxy? Her?" Mark opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. His brain stopped working for a moment. He wasn't supposed to touch royalty. He wasn't supposed to even look at them. He had only heard stories about star queens, stories that sounded like fantasies. But she was real, and she was bleeding in front of him. "Your Majesty, I didn't know," he stuttered. She studied him, calm, serious, strangely curious. She didn't pull her arm away. She didn't demand punishment. She just watched him, as if he was some kind of puzzle she couldn't figure out. "You have courage," she said quietly. Most humans run from danger. Before Mark could respond, the ground shook violently. The ship groaned like a dying beast. A deep metallic sound echoed from outside, like heavy armor hitting stone. The Queen's expression hardened. "They found me," she whispered. "Who?" Mark asked. Instead of answering, she forced herself to sit up. Pain flashed across her face, but she didn't make a sound. Her glowing armor flickered with weak energy. "The Void Empire," she said. "Assassins. They attacked my royal ship. My guards are gone. Only I survived the crash." Mark's throat went dry. He heard it now, footsteps outside the ship. Mechanical. Getting closer. "We have to go," the Queen said, trying to stand. She stumbled, and Mark caught her before she fell. Her body was cold, her breath shaky. She was badly hurt. Too hurt to run alone. "You can't move like this," Mark whispered. "I must." She looked into his eyes again. "If I fall here, the galaxy will burn." The footsteps were right outside now. Something punched into the ship's hull, cutting through metal. Sparks flew. Mark made a choice. Stupid, dangerous choice. "Your Majesty, lean on me." She hesitated for the first time since waking up. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why help me? You owe me nothing." Mark tightened his grip on her arm. "Because you need it. And because no one deserves to die alone." The Queen stared at him, stunned by his simple honesty. Then she nodded. Together they moved toward a side hatch. It was half broken, but Mark forced it open. They slipped into a dark maintenance tunnel just as the assassins entered the crashed ship. The Queen leaned against him, her breathing uneven. "What is your name, human?" she asked. "Mark Hale." "Mark." She repeated it slowly, as if tasting the name. "You have a brave heart." They crawled deeper through the tunnel. The lights flickered. The metal walls groaned. The Queen's strength was fading fast, but she refused to stop. Outside the tunnel, steel footsteps echoed, closer and closer. "We're almost out," Mark whispered. A faint blue glow appeared at the end of the passage. Daylight. But just as they reached the exit, a shadow dropped down from above. Tall, armored, dangerous. A spear of bright energy slammed into the ground in front of them. Mark grabbed the Queen and stumbled backward. A deep mechanical voice spoke. "Your Majesty, your escape ends here." The Queen pushed Mark behind her, even though she could barely stand. "Stay close, human," she whispered. "If I fall, run." Mark shook his head. He wasn't going to leave her. The assassin stood tall in front of them, blocking the cave exit with armored shoulders as wide as a doorway. His body was covered in dark metal plates that pulsed with red energy. His helmet had no eyes, no face, only a cold glowing strip of light. The spear in his hand hummed like a living storm. Queen Veoloria's jaw tightened as she placed herself between Mark and the assassin, even though her body trembled with exhaustion. "You survived the crash," the assassin said. His voice sounded like broken machinery grinding against stone. "Impressive. But it ends now." He raised the spear. The Queen tried to summon her energy, but her wounds glowed painfully. Her power was almost gone. Mark realized with sudden terror, she couldn't fight. The assassin's gaze shifted toward Mark. "The human. Move aside. You are not required." Mark swallowed hard. His legs shook. Every instinct screamed for him to step back, to hide, to survive. But he didn't move. "She's not dying today," he said, voice trembling but steady. The assassin tilted his head, surprised by the audacity. "You defend her?" he asked. "You. A fragile minor." Mark's hands curled into fists. "I'm not leaving her." The assassin thrust forward. Mark didn't think. He acted. There was a broken metal rod half buried in the cave floor. He grabbed it and swung wildly as the assassin lunged. The rod smashed into the assassin's visor with a loud crack, sparks flying. The blow didn't defeat the assassin, but it surprised him enough to make him stumble. And that gave the Queen 1 second. Just one. With shaking hands, she raised her palm and released a weak but focused blast of blue energy. It wasn't strong enough to kill, but it sent the assassin crashing into the cave wall, stones collapsing around him. "Move!" Mark shouted. The Queen grabbed his arm, and they ran deeper into the canyon, stumbling over rocks and shadows. Behind them, the assassin roared in fury. They escaped. Now. The canyons twisted like a maze. Mark guided the Queen toward a narrow crevice he remembered from a mining team map. They squeezed inside. The walls were tight, almost crushing, but the shadows hid them. The Queen leaned heavily against him. Her breath was sharp and uneven. "You fought for me," she murmured, staring at him with glowing eyes that seemed softer now. "A human fought an elite void assassin." Mark looked embarrassed. "I didn't have a choice." She touched his cheek lightly with her fingers, a royal gesture of honor. "You chose bravery," she whispered. "For me." Her voice was quiet, almost gentle. Mark felt his face warming, but there wasn't time to say anything. Outside, metal footsteps echoed through the canyon. The assassin wasn't dead. He was hunting them. A moment of truth. They continued moving slowly through the narrow passage until they reached a small crystal cave hidden deep under the canyon floor. The walls glowed faintly with blue light, reflecting softly on the Queen's pale face. She sat down, exhausted. Mark checked her bandages. The wound had reopened. She winced but didn't cry out. "You need help," Mark said. "Real medical help." She closed her eyes for a moment. "My fleet will be searching for me," she said weakly. "But until they arrive, you are all I have." Mark lowered his head, unsure how to respond. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't a soldier. He was just Mark Hale, a man who fixed broken things. But right now, the Queen of the Galaxy was broken, tired, hurt, hunted, and he was the only one willing to help. "I'll get you out of this," he promised. Her eyes opened again. "You speak as if it is simple," she whispered. "But the Void Empire hunts me for a reason. If they kill me, they will take the throne. And then, every free world will burn." Mark's heart tightened. The galaxy, depending on him. That sounded impossible. But when he looked at her, brave, wounded, trying to stand tall even now, he knew he couldn't walk away. Not anymore. The assassin returns. A loud crash shook the cave. Crystal shards fell like rain. "He found us," Mark whispered. The Queen tried to stand, but her legs buckled. Mark caught her. The assassin's silhouette appeared at the entrance, towering in the glowing light. "You run well," he said, stepping inside. "But I always finish my hunts." Mark looked around desperately. The cave was full of old mining equipment, broken coils, dead batteries, metal pieces, power cells. His mind began working fast. "Keep him busy," Mark whispered to the Queen. "Just for a moment." She nodded, eyes determined. The assassin charged forward. The Queen raised her hand, firing small bursts of blue energy, but she was too weak. The blasts barely slowed him. Mark worked quickly, connecting cables, overloading energy cells, creating an improvised trap with shaking fingers. Just a few more seconds. Almost. "Human!" the assassin roared, turning toward him. Mark slammed the final cable into place. "Queen! Now!" She understood instantly. With the last of her power, she focused her energy into Mark's trap. The overloaded mining cells exploded in a brilliant flash of blue and white. The shockwave hurled the assassin backward. His armor cracked, sparks flying. The ground beneath him shattered, and he fell into the deep ravine below, disappearing into darkness. Silence. Then only the Queen's exhausted breathing. "You did it," she whispered. Mark knelt beside her. "We did it." Rescue arrives. Minutes passed like hours. Finally, the sky above the canyon lit up with the glow of massive engines. A royal fleet, sleek silver ships with blue banners, descended from orbit. Soldiers in shining armor ran toward them. They kneeled instantly when they saw her. Your Majesty, we are here. But the queen pushed their hands away and pointed at Mark. See to him first, she commanded. He saved your queen. The soldiers exchanged shocked looks. No one had ever heard such words from her before. The final twist. As medics tended her wounds, Mark stepped back uncertain. Now that she was safe, she didn't need him anymore. He was just a miner. Nobody. He turned to leave. But the queen reached out and caught his wrist, just like earlier, but now her touch was warm, gentle. Mark Hale, she said softly. Where do you think you're going? He turned slowly. You're safe now, he said. You don't need me anymore. A faint smile touched her lips. Rare, royal, beautiful. You cleaned my wounds, she whispered. You protected me. You stood against death itself. She stepped closer. And you touched the queen of the galaxy. And touched something far deeper. Mark swallowed, confused. What do you mean? She raised her chin proudly, her voice steady again. From this moment, you are no longer a simple human miner. Soldiers watched with wide eyes. I name you my chosen protector, she declared. My personal guard. My companion. My shield. Mark stared in disbelief. How? Why me? The queen smiled again, this time with real warmth. Because you were the only one who stayed when I was weak. She reached out her hand. Come with me, Mark. Your life among the stars begins now. And Mark Hale, once a forgotten miner on a lonely moon, took her hand, and stepped into a destiny he never imagined. Indy.